You're standing at the edge of something. You are right on the edge. And the truth is, you are actually scared. And it's not because God hasn't been faithful, and it's not because you don't believe, but it's because what He is asking you to do right now means leaving behind the thing that has always provided, the thing that has always felt safe, the life that you've built, the place that you know, the relationships you've had, the version of yourself that finally feels like you have it together. You finally feel stable. And the real question that's sitting, right in your heart, right on your chest right now is, can I really trust God outside of everything that has always worked for me up until now? Like, is this really God calling me? And so if that's you, this episode's for you. Welcome to Bible Study for Women, a She Knows the Word podcast hosted by me, Courage Molina. I'm a Bible literacy advocate, a certified biblical life coach, and a seminary student. This podcast exists to help you understand Scripture clearly, consistently, and in a way where you can apply it to your actual life. If you want to read the Bible, but sometimes you feel confused, overwhelmed, bored, or unsure how to apply what you're reading, you are not alone. You are in the right place. Let's get into it. All right, we are continuing in our Bible reading plan, our She Knows the Word Bible reading plan. And today we are going to be in Genesis chapter 46. That's where this teaching is coming from. This is the thing I want you to know before we even really get into it. It must be really something that I'm afraid of right now because I just preached a sermon on Sunday and I prepped for that all week. And the title was the same, the message was the same. It was about not being afraid. I don't know if something is coming that God is going to be asking me to do. There is a decision I need to make that I've been making. I've been talking about some things. And so maybe that's it. But this, once again, once I got through this text and I see what the message is, I'm like, okay, so this is the second time for me, at least in the last 2 weeks, that the message from my study is do not be afraid. So I don't know if this is for you. I think that it probably is if you're watching it. So let's just get into it. All right. So to understand what's happening in Genesis 46, you really have to understand what Jacob has, like where he's been, what he's been through. This is a man who has lived a life of movement. He left home running from his brother Esau, if y'all remember that. And then he spent 20 years in his uncle Laban's household. He wrestled with God at Peniel, and then he lost his beloved wife Rachel, right? So he's really been through a lot. He thought his son Joseph was dead for over 20 years because of these brothers. And finally, after all of that, he is in Canaan, he is settled, he is home, and now God is telling him to leave again. Now he's got to go to Egypt. And here's the thing, Joseph, his son, who he thought was dead, is alive. He is now second in command in Egypt, and there's a famine in the land. And the land is not just from Egypt, it's reached all the way to Canaan also. And so Jacob has to make a very difficult decision to trust God outside of everything that he knows, outside of the place where he's provided for him all this time. He has to trust God outside of the land that held every promise God has ever made to his family, and outside of all that has become familiar to him. And so on his way there, he stops at Beersheba. And let me just tell you this, that that stop in Beersheba, that's not just a small thing. He passes through Beersheba, and Beersheba is not random. If you remember through the book of Genesis, this is a place where lots of great things have happened. Very special things, let me tell you. So this is the place where his grandfather Abraham called on the name of the Lord for the first time. This is the place where his father Isaac received a word from God. This place, this Beersheba place for Jacob and his ancestors, this is sacred ground. And so Jacob is on his way to Egypt because he's got to go there because of the famine, and he plants himself there and worships before he goes anywhere. And so I just want you to think about how important it is, how important worship is. I was just talking to someone today and I'm like, worship is warfare. Worship is your weapon. When you are facing hard decisions, hard places, hard. It's a hard thing for you to be obedient. When you get to that place in your life, worship is not optional, okay? Worship is actually preparation. It's not like, well, I'm not going to do it, or it's not just singing. It is going to put you in a position to really hear from God. This is actually a place of surrender. Before the move, guess what? God shows up. So he's on his way. He stops in this sacred space. He's worshiping God. And it's right in that spot, in this place where he has surrendered it all. Okay, this is where God is calling me to go. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I'm going to go. He's worshiping through that. And before he moves, God shows up. And God calls him by his name not once but twice, Jacob, Jacob. Repetition in the Bible, it is language of intimacy. This is not God addressing a nation. This is God speaking directly to a man he knows by name, to a man who is afraid, who is filled with fear, to a man who is standing at the edge of everything unfamiliar. And what does God say? Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt. Let's just take a pause right there. Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt. He's not saying that Egypt is perfect. He's not, there's no indication that there's not going to be any hardship or trouble in Egypt, that Egypt is the new promise. There ain't none of that. He didn't say it was going to be easy. He didn't say there's nothing to be afraid of. He said, do not be afraid, which means that God already knew that Jacob was afraid of something. And excuse me, he's not, this is not him condemning him or judging him. This is encouragement. This is exhortation. He is meeting him inside of this fear. And then God makes this promise. He says, I'm going to go with you. Do not be afraid. I know you're worried. I know you're scared, but the Lord is saying, I will go with you. I will bring you back. I will make you a great nation. The same God who gave the promise is the same God authorizing the detour, and he never left the room. I'm going to say that again for the people in the back. The same God who gave the promise before the famine is the same God authorizing the detour that Jacob never knew was going to happen. And God never left him. Here's the thing, and I don't want you to miss this. God sends Israel into Egypt, not into the promised land, not into the territory where the covenant has always lived, not into the land of the covenant, not into the land of the promise, into Egypt. Egypt is a foreign place. It is a pagan nation. It is hostile towards God in the future. And we know that. Maybe not at this particular time in history, but we know what Egypt will become. And this is where God has sent Jacob. This is not the enemy. This is not a trick. This is not a test. This is direction from God. The land that had nothing to do with what God spoke over his family is the very land that God is calling him to now, and God goes with him there. Okay? There are a couple things, maybe three things, that I want you to walk away with from this text. The first thing is that God meets you in the pause before you move. God meets you in the pause before you move. The one thing that it assumes is that you pause before you move. That once you've heard a word from God, before you move, you say, take some time to worship, to pray, to consecrate yourself for the journey that you're about to go on. And so he takes the time to stop and make these sacrifices. So there's got to be a pause, but God is going to meet you in that pause before you move. Jacob didn't rush forward. He didn't just go off running. He didn't hit the ground running. He worshiped first. I want to do have a lifestyle, a habit, a practice of worshiping first. I got a word from God. Before I go to do this thing that God has called me to do, I'm going to pause and I'm going to worship Him. Especially when the thing that God has called you to do is something that makes you nervous, is something that strikes fear into you, something that leads you to have some doubts. Taking the time to worship is a very powerful thing. And it's in that space, in that stillness, that God spoke into. I don't think we get still often enough. I don't think we get still often enough. We are always on the go. It is very counter-cultural for us to have an idea, get some instruction, get some direction, and not want to run off and do it instead of just taking the time to take a pause. I'm certainly guilty of that. Maybe not you, but I definitely am. Um, I may not stop and pause. I am more inclined to just go run off, even if I'm scared, honestly. But this is such a beautiful example, that he worshiped her first. So if God is asking you to leave something, if God is asking you to start something, step into something that scares you, don't skip your Beersheba moment. Do not let the urgency of the rush and the transition and the movement, don't let that urgency rush you past the place where God is trying to speak. Worship before you go. Okay. The second thing I want you to take away from this is that fear is not evidence that you've missed God. That's so important. Fear is not evidence that you missed God. It's not evidence that you shouldn't do it. People say, oh, well, I don't have a peace about it. You are not going to have peace about every situation. I don't know why you think that, because the Bible does not say that. It doesn't say you're going to have peace about every situation, about every decision, everything that comes from God. And we know that because we see that with Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. He did not have peace. He said he was so upset that he was sweating. The sweats were like drops of blood. He went and asked Lord 3 times if you can remove this cup. So this idea that if it's really God and if this is really the right decision, I won't have any fear. It'll be like so easy and like that ain't it. That's just not how that we don't see that supported in the word, right? That this idea that fear is evidence that you shouldn't do it. Well, if it's really the Lord, then you wouldn't be scared to do it. Who said that? Fear is not evidence that you miss God. It's not evidence that the enemy is involved. Jacob was afraid. God still said go. All right. Fear and obedience can occupy the same moment. What am I saying? I'm saying you can do it scared. I'm saying that you can do it scared. You do not have to feel ready. You don't have to feel at peace. You do not have to feel courageous. You just have to trust the one who said, I will go with you. Obedience is not about the absence of fear. It is choosing to move toward God anyway. The third thing, the last thing, is that God does not stay behind when he sends you forward. He's not sending you off and he's going to stay here. This is this is a good space for me personally. Um, God sent Jacob into Egypt. This is a place with no history of the covenant, no altar to God. There were no, events with the patriarchs or the fathers of the faith. There's no promised land there. And he still said, I am going with you. His presence is not attached to the geography. His presence is not attached to the location. His promise, his blessings, provision is not attached to the location. His presence was attached to his people. His presence was attached to his people. And here's the thing. This is a picture of Jesus. This is an illustration of Jesus, the Emmanuel, God with us, not God watching Jacob from a distance while, he's trying to navigate these unfamiliar spaces. God is stepping into the foreign place with you. He is making holy ground out of whatever ground you are standing on. He is making holy ground on whatever ground you are standing on. The place that God is sending you to, the place where He's told you to go, those things He's told you to let go of and go over there. I used to say go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. I used to say that all the time. Bump that. Go where you sent. Do you hear me? Go where you are sent. I don't care if it's a hostile land. I don't care if it's a pagan land. I don't care if they practice idolatry. Go where God sends you. One, is this is the place that God is sending you to. It means that He is already there. Mm. I want to close out. I'm about to wrap up. After after the fear and after the pause, this is after the worship, after the word of God, Jacob went. He went. And this is your personal invitation. You have been in the pause long enough. You have wrestled with it. You have prayed over it. You have strategized. You have over spiritualized. You have asked God for clarity, for confirmation, and He's already spoken. So please stop playing. And what He is saying to you right now is the same thing He said to Jacob at Beersheba on the edge of the most uncertain part of his life. Do not be afraid. I will go with you. It's so cliche, but it's true. Like, you are not made to stay in a place where you feel safe. God has not brought you this far to bring you this far, okay? You, you you are not made to keep circling the same comfortable place. You are made to follow a God who travels with you into the unfamiliar, into the unknown, into the place that holds nothing of your past. You don't even know these people. You don't know the culture. You just don't know what to expect. Or sometimes even worse, you do know it and you know it's nothing like you've had before. You were made to follow God into the unfamiliar, into the unknown. And when you do that, I want you to understand that the place that you go to, it is the very place that God is going to be glorified. So, friend, I want you to stop waiting to feel ready. God has already gone ahead of you. So don't be afraid. Just go. But before I let you go, if today's episode met you where you are, if you are having your own Beersheba moment, trying to trust God past everything that you have ever known, I want you to know that you don't have to go through the season alone. You don't need to navigate this by yourself. And so I want to personally invite you to join the She Knows the Word Collective. This is a community of women who are serious about God's Word. We're serious about walking in what God has called us to, and we're serious about doing it together. This is it's not really like a passive place where you're just going to be in there consuming and watching what other people are doing. This is a place where you're going to be able to bring your entire self, your whole self, the good, the bad, and the ugly. This is a place where you're going to come and open your actual Bible, and you're going to grow with women who are doing the same hard but holy work. The link to join is in the show notes. You can also find me on Instagram at Courage Molina. Slide in the DMs and I'll send you the link. I want you to come and connect. Send me a message. Let me know, how this episode has blessed you, inspired you, encouraged you, or challenged you. And join the collective because I would love to have you in the room. Until next time, keep studying, keep trusting, and keep getting to know the word. All right? Love you.